All right, so Wrangler, what part did you want me to read? You want me to read the
Oh
beginning of
yeah.
Purple Dawn?
If you would like, yeah, you looked through
I can
some
read
of it
any part you
already, or
like.
have you already looked through some of it?
Glanced. I didn't read it. Yeah.
I was gonna say you could read any part you'd like.
Well,
Just
shoot.
if you do the 33 AD part, please do not use
Bad
alternative
words.
voices for that part.
Do not. Oh yeah, no. I unless you ask me to, I'll do it straight.
Yeah.
What the hell? Sorry. There we
Oh,
go.
cool. And Frederick is sending me links. Haha.
Frederickson. Yeah. All right. So anytime you're ready, I can start it. I can share present the screen too in case people want to read it.
Oh yeah, go for it.
All right. Let's see. Click the thing. Bad kitty. Yeah. There we go. All right.
Omniwatch data entry. Multiversal cluster
You
77.
gotta zoom in more.
Designation. I don't know
You gotta
how.
zoom in
Dog.
more.
I don't know how.
Wait. Got
This
it.
AI is really sophisticated.
Billy Bob can suck it anyway.
Universe 9. Timeline 1C13. Earth 6000 BC. The world looked very different. If people from modern day appeared and looked up, what in the world? Sorry, my sound system's doing something weird.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, that should be better. Okay. If people from modern day appeared and looked up, they would have thought it was an alien planet, but it was not. The sky was purple instead of blue, and always remained the same. There was no difference between day and night. The weather was comfortable and unchanging around the entirety of the lush world, and the peoples of Earth were thriving. Things were unrecognizable compared to the present, but the most striking difference in the sky was in the sky to the north. A large yellow sphere, hung in place in the center, was a circle of white and a smaller circle of red. This is what the world once referred to as the sun. The gas giant Saturn dominated the northern sky with Venus and Mars between it, and the Earth in a polar alignment. It was a golden age for the world, and humans were starting to advance in their mystical and technological prowess. Populations throughout the world, and one nation in particular, was on the cutting edge. Antarctica at the time was a paradise, and the leading minds from around the world would regularly meet there to exchange ideas. This was the place humans discovered that reality was not just one realm, but a spectrum of energetic densities. A reality upon reality upon reality. Some were populated, others were not. Some were beautiful, others were harsh. But all were a part of each other, a part of the same world. They met other species of people, much like themselves, in some of these densities, and began friendships and trades with their fellow Terrans. Things are great for the people of Earth. Throughout many densities in Antarctica, known then as Atlantis, was at the center of it all. The human realm became known as the first density. The second density, though thriving with life, was found to be unpopulated, while the third and fourth densities were populated by multiple species, such as the Alphan and the Dwargarians.
Dwargarians. Yeah. Rough
Dwargarians,
word.
there you go. Sorry, I was looking at the word, I'm like, ooh, let me see.
5200 BC.
The sky had done something that no one had ever seen before. It started to change. All that the Earthlings had ever seen was a constant purple glow, but something was now different. Although the sky remained purple, it started to brighten. It wasn't a startling difference. In fact, it was so subtle that most people didn't even notice at first. The sky would brighten, then it dimmed back down, This pattern continued, and as it did, became more pronounced. Then it happened. A flash erupted from the polar alignment, and long comet-like tails extended out from Venus towards the core of the system, towards Saturn. The purple plasma sheath that surrounded the Saturnian worlds was disrupted as its magnetosphere contacted one from another star, a bright yellow dwarf. The sky became brighter than anyone had seen before, as it took on a more bluish hue, and a new feature appeared on their original sun, a crescent of light that rotated counterclockwise. As the crescent rotated and the light dimmed, and for the first time, people could look up to a dark sky and see the cosmos. More stars than they could possibly count, and the cometary tails of Venus shone brightly. The rotation continued, and the sky became bright once more, dazzling the eyes of the people. This was when timekeeping, as it is understood today, began.
$4,300 BC.
The tails of Venus took on different forms and shapes over the centuries. 3 tails became 4. They shifted through various patterns and presented a beautiful display, especially at night. But then the red spot in the middle of their sun grew larger as Mars began to move closer to the Earth. The neighboring planet took up as much of the sky, and a tail of red dust extended down towards the northern horizon. Some people described it as the World Mountain, and others as Mars growing a beard. The red planet then pulled away as it moved towards Venus and settled back to its usual spot for a period of time. The people of Earth talked about the moving heavenly bodies and began recounting the events, personifying the planets and describing the scenario as a conflict among godly beings. But the shifting of the planetary alignment was far from over. Mars began to approach once more, and this time, Venus also left her perch. The cometary tails converged into one as it shifted towards Mars and struck him hard, sending him closer to Earth, closer than the red planet had ever been. The tails of dust from both Mars and Earth extended out towards each other when their electrical fields mixed. The hero of the sky fell and rocked the Earth as storms manifested on a planet-wide scale. People desperately sought shelters as meteors slammed the ground and cosmic lightning bolts arced between the two planets. After so much loss of life, the skies began to clear, and Mars was making its way back towards the beautiful, angry Venus. Her cometary tails spread out like serpents, giving her the appearance of long, wild hair. The red tail of Mars pulled away from Earth and extended out towards Venus. Venus's tails converged into one and met the tail of Mars, forming a twisting ribbon of dust and plasma as the two gods in the sky did battle. The catastrophe had wiped away much of the Earth's population, and technical knowledge was lost. Atlantis' destruction was total, and there were no known survivors. But many Atlanteans did escape. They ported into the second density, where a good number of them managed to find some shelter and rode out the rest of the cosmic storm. They too observed as the skies cleared, and Mars made his approach to Venus. They battled, then made their peace as they fell back into their axial positions once more. A short period of time later, they left their positions and began to wander off across the sky. With the dueling magnetospheres of Saturn and the yellow dwarf star, there was a sudden flash when Saturn ejected several planet-sized spheres from within itself to reach electromagnetic equilibrium, and then began to move from its northern throne. As it moved away from the center of the sky, another world became visible. Jupiter. The new planetary bodies fell back into Saturn, but a massive electrical arc discharged from Jupiter, striking Saturn and releasing the bodies back into the sky. Saturn and its new moons fell away into the distance as Jupiter took the throne. But this would not last. Venus and Mars were now shrinking in the sky, and Jupiter also started to retreat, while a smaller, brighter yellow sphere worked its way from east to west. The planets settled into their new orbits around the yellow dwarf star. The people would tell the story of when the gods did battle in the sky, unaware of what their continued collective focus could produce. Around the world and through the generations, these stories were told. The populations grew and the names changed, but the stories were about the same cataclysmic event, and with the energy of so many people focused on the same personified concepts.
The gods manifested.
Created by the combined imagination of mortals, these stories had become religious practices, and, with the continued focus of so many people, the energy of these manifestations individualized and became self-sustaining. The gods became real people, individuals with free will. In the second density, the surviving people had retained their scientific knowledge, and they had some gear and equipment in the bunkers of the research facilities. Starting from almost scratch, they were diligent and industrious people who went to work, recording all data and knowledge they had as others began building. Bit by bit, they worked in an effort to make contact with the other densities, hoping to find that the rest of Earth's people had fared better than they.
2350 BC.
The people of Earth had taken a different path than their precious civilizations. Corruption had spread, and malicious practices had become commonplace. But the time came when they looked up, watching with a mix of awe and dread as Venus grew larger in the sky. They had heard the stories of old, told down through the generations, about when the beautiful maiden of the sky became angry, and now Earth's orbit would bring the two worlds close to each other once again. Quakes and storms became frequent, and with increased intensity as the planets grew closer together. Venus's cometary activity began to display as it once did in the stories, arcing plasma towards the Earth. The storms raged, and the rain fell like never before. Massive flooding occurred in all densities, again devastating the populations. From the Mediterranean area, Venus herself watched in horror as the planet that was her namesake initiated the cataclysm. Even the gods, with all their abilities to command the elements, were powerless to prevent the deluge. Many of them combined their efforts, but what should have worked simply did not. Some of the more empathetic gods, such as Bastet, started hovering high in the sky and attempting to calm the deluge, noticed the universal sentience. Then she felt it rolling over her. Grief, like that of a parent losing their child. Except this was magnified to an intensity beyond anything the goddess could bear. Overwhelmed, Bast instantly passed out, but her best friend, Artemis, by her side, caught the Egyptian goddess before she fell.
Bast.
Oh, shoot.
Bast, wake up, she shouted in fear for her friend as lightning cracked through the wind-driven rain. After a moment, she regained consciousness, crying hysterically. Bast, look at me! Look at my eyes! Focusing in on Artemis, Bast choked out with sorrow as she said, The Creator's heart is breaking, but this must happen. She grabbed Artemis and pulled her in, hugging her tight while the tears flowed down Bast's cheeks. We can do nothing, she sobbed. Over a month later, the skies finally cleared, and the planet Venus appeared much smaller. Over the next few months, she shrank to the size of a faraway star in the night sky as the two planets settled into their permanent orbits.
"33 AD. First density."
The sky had become unnaturally dark, like night had occurred in the middle of the afternoon. Struggling to exhale, Yeshua had endured the torture that few could ever comprehend. The nails through his wrists and ankles held him in place against the Roman cross, and he had to pull himself up to release his breath. After a painful exhale, the crucified man slumped back down, the physical position forcing him to inhale once again. Despite the trauma, pain, and exhaustion, he was still mentally clear and coherent. His words for the last few hours had been labored and strained, but the man gathered his strength one last time. He pulled himself up, allowing the air to escape his lungs as he managed to shout, "It is finished!" And with that, Yeshua released his spirit. The energy pulsed outward unseen, but not unnoticed. In all densities, the wave of peace was felt by mortal and immortal alike, and many dropped to their knees, shedding tears in a tate of catharsis. The pulse continued outward, permeating all of existence, felt by sentient beings across the entirety of the universe. He looked like a normal man, save the fact that he was in the sky. It had been 3 days since the sun had died, but he looked to Yeshua's tomb on the ground with gratitude. The earth beneath him trembled when the seraph touched down, and he, with strength beyond that of the mortals, rolled the stone away from the tomb's entrance. Inside, he could see the cloth with which Yeshua had been wrapped and laid to rest, but there was no body. The seraph couldn't even begin to hide his smile as a tear of joy rolled down his cheek. He jumped on top of the stone and sat down and waited, feeling both honored and excited. The seraph was ready to tell the mortals about the good news. Moments like this are when he loved his job.
Second density. Canaan.
Tassie was 5'8", barrel-chested, and had thick, muscular arms. He had two complexions. His face, like most of his body, was pale, but from the top of his head, down his neck and back, the skin was a grayish blue. Let's see. Okay, that's probably good there, Wrangler. Read our first little intro portion.
Yeah.
Boom.
Thank you, Kahuna.
Oh, sorry, my voice isn't what it should be right now.
It's also a fairly long bit of prose to read through.
Yeah, I honestly didn't expect you to go that far.
Well, it was good, man, and honestly, I kind of had to warm up. I had to start feeling the story and doing it, like getting my timing down, and I think I started to at the end there. But thank you for letting me read it. I really appreciate it. That's a cool beginning. It's a much more scientific and religious, having a bitch fight than I expected, but it's really good.
That is the preview to Wrangler's second book he's finishing up.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's pretty much setting up all the world lore for what's to come in the adventure ahead.
Wait,
Yeah, that was his prologue.
We got to do this right.
Introducing my Wrangler, a second novel.
Hello,
Bad Kitty
beautiful
2,
snow.
Oh my God.
Boobaloo.
Well, then, since we're mentioning that, we just got to We just need
What's
to show
up,
her beautiful
Snow?
face again.
I realized, no, I made dinner, and then I was like, oh my gosh, Weekly Winglet's on. And so I had to hurry because I was like, and I fed my people, and then I was like, I'm sorry, I have to ditch y'all because I have real friends. No, I didn't say that. I did not say that. So I'm here. And then I walked in on somebody talking about basic bitches or something. I don't know.
No,
Yeah.
you missed the prologue to Wrangler's second book.
Oh, did Kahuna read it for us?
I
Yeah.
did.
Yes,
I
he
did.
did.
Did you
It took me
really?
Most of it. He-
Wrangler, dang it,
Yeah.
you had too many scientific words in there. You know I'm not freaking smart.
Yeah, you will. You will be by the time you finish the prologue. You only got a page
Right.
left.
Only people who can truly understand Rick and Morty can read this book.
Now,
Wait,
Kahuna, you need
I
to
don't
read through
think
it
the
again
book
as
is anything like
Cartman.
Rick and Morty.
Anyway, thanks for sticking around through that. Sorry, guys. It wasn't my best work, but, buy the
You're
book.
learning.
You're just starting with the reading. It's going to take watch a month or two from now. You're going to have all that voice inflection,
Yeah.
and you'll
Go
probably
from
be
reading
turning
to
your
narrating.
head left to right to do that. What is that called? The dramatic triangle, when you're telling a story and you turn from left and right to
Make it sound like it's coming from
convey
different
two different
places.
people.
That's cool.
Oh,
I never even
yeah.
thought about that. That's a cool idea.
The more you do it, the better you get at it.
Well, I'll get
true.
there eventually, but thank you guys for sitting around through it. I appreciate it.